Hey everybody, welcome to Campus Comics Cast, coming to you from Carbondale, Illinois, with special guests from the Campus Comics crew. And now, here's your host, the man with the previews in hand, Mike No.
Alright, and hello and welcome to another episode of Campus Comics Cast. Here inside Campus Comics is the starting to get dark outside, and I do not have previews in hand for this one. We're going to be talking about a few other things here that's going on within the industry and just some tie-in stuff with other media, and actually going to talk about review a comic book series that's going on here. So joining me to help me with that tonight are
Scott Reed
and Dan Brown.
All right, well, the first thing we need to talk about is something that has been ongoing for a long time. It seems like the possibility, I guess, since the birth of the MCU, as we say, and that would be the Disney / Marvel / Fox merger. You know, because ever since all the movies started, people wanted, those properties that Fox owned the rights to make movies to come back. Well, it has happened. So where do we start here with this?
Well, I guess so. The total was what, 71.8, or was it 2?
Oh, what I saw said 2, but I don't know.
Let's say over 70
Again,
billion.
No one's cutting me a check, so I couldn't tell you.
So what's a 600 million?
Yeah, between friends. Who cares?
So, and I guess Disney already has Justice Department approval for this to go through.
They did before the final vote.
And I'm thinking that because Comcast came in and was maybe going to try to buy it, and that's why before we were hearing in the 50 million or 50 billions, excuse me.
Come on.
Yeah. And now we're up over the 70 billion, which that just seems absurd.
I can't fathom that amount of money.
No,
I'll never see that in my lifetime, unfortunately.
I heard there was one objecting vote from one of the shareholders, said no because they just felt
who didn't just slap them.
I know, right? Because it's just they just felt like Disney was spending too much money.
Yeah. Well, I can see more objection on the Disney side than I can see coming from the Fox side for that dollar amount.
Right.
The X-Men movies are not going to make $70 billion over the next 100 years, let alone.
But again, we're talking about the entirety of Fox for the most part.
Yeah.
I think they had to drop off some sports channels maybe and some different things like that.
Right.
So there'll still be some Fox out there, I guess. But Disney took a big chunk of it. So again, we're not just talking about the movie, the Marvel movies, but that's what we'll be focusing on on this one.
What's the important stuff.
But there's a lot more to it. Simpsons are in there, like we were talking on our previous episode. Yeah,
there's so much in there, and I mean, as far as what it means, I hadn't really thought about, but there's a, kind of a group of guys that tends to hang out and talk to Dan here on Saturday. But I was thinking about what this means, and how it goes beyond the movie universe as far as the MCU. Of course, that means we get X-Men and Fantastic Four back, a right to make movies for those, and anything goes with them. So that's Silver Surfer, Galactus, on and on. Everything that goes along with that. But one of the things I think you mentioned, Dan, too, that had never even occurred to me was the original Star Wars trilogy.
Right.
Because of course, go ahead.
I think that was something a friend of mine and coworker and customer here at the store, Shad Schubert, brought up to me at my day job.
Right.
Was that now they can re-release the original cut of the Star Wars films because Fox has distribution on that. Okay. Disney owns Star Wars. It's all under one house now.
Yep.
Again, there's some other things kind of here and there, like the 90s Spider-Man cartoon that was on Fox back in the day. Disney owned that somehow. It was some weird thing. I would hope that that's all cleared up now. I don't know why it wouldn't be, because before we always had these crazy single disc themed compilations. We've never had a complete set, even though they've done the X-Men since. And so again, if you're a Spider-Man fan and you want these cartoons,
well, I guess we'll maybe see those on Disney streaming then.
I would hope. I would think so. I'm also hoping we get some of the older Spider-Man cartoons, like Spider-Man's Amazing Friends, and then the Spider-Man series before that, which I didn't even know about till a few years ago.
And then the 60s Spider-Man series.
I can't even make myself watch those.
Oh, I know. They're rough on YouTube. I watch those and some of the Hulk stuff.
But again, that got their home release years ago.
But I watched the second season, and they started reusing some of the animation from the first season and lots of repetitive
And that's
things,
the other thing. There were other series they did too back then. Wasn't there Hulk and Captain America cartoons from back then?
Submariner. They did Submariner.
I remember those being released on VHS back in the day, but I've never seen them.
I've only ever seen them on bootlegs. Is the only place I've ever seen them at.
They're very odd because they take the original artwork like Kirby and stuff, and they just kind of do
Right.
Yeah,
just like
animated
motion
comics. Yeah, animated
right.
comics.
And they're basically adaptations of some of those early stories. So with really bad theme songs.
So bringing it back to,
Okay.
I'm sorry,
fun stuff.
that was my bad. My bad. To me, the biggest concern I have going forward is how this is going to impact the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
And we've talked about this in the past. I do not want to see Deadpool and Captain America in the same movie. I do not want to see that. I have zero desire for that to occur, and I also have zero desire to see the Marvel Cinematic mesh up with the current X-Men universe, because the current X-Men universe has just been very hit or miss, and to me more miss than hit.
And that's the thing, they've delayed New Mutants and the Dark Phoenix movie. I keep seeing rumors online, are they canceled? I can't imagine that those movies won't get released at some point unless Disney just is adamant about burying them for whatever reason.
Maybe they made them just to up the dollar price that they were going to get.
That could be.
That's why we had that first Fantastic Four movie,
Right.
the Roger Corman one that never got released. So
Yeah, and there's a good documentary out about that now too, called Doomed. You can check out.
Yeah.
Oh,
if
really?
you
I
want.
think it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I think so.
No kidding. Ooh,
So if you
I
want to
haven't
know
watched
more about that, check that out.
Yes, I would.
Little side note, but hopefully we get a much better Fantastic Four movie out of this deal.
Yeah. But still, unfortunately, that's the best Doctor Doom we've ever gotten.
It's definitely the most comic accurate
Right.
adaptation of those characters.
Yeah.
But mostly because they had to make it so quick they didn't have time to come up with anything
Got
different.
the Corman treatment for sure.
But and again, back to the Fantastic Four real quick. Friend of the store, Matt Speroni, brought up to me, how about a Hulk Thing fight?
Exactly.
Hadn't even thought about that, but you can have that now in a movie. That would be awesome.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. So yeah, there's a lot of good. I mean, there's some concerns. Like I agree with Scott on that. But maybe Disney will keep that. So I mean, they'd have to really water down, Deadpool, and I think that.
Yeah, that's the thing. How does Disney handle an R-rated Deadpool movie?
Right. Yeah.
Disney has obviously done R-rated movies. However, I mean, all of the Marvel Cinematic stuff has been PG-13.
Right.
I hope that continues.
Me
I mean,
too.
you're not going to have. I mean, as good as or as much money as some of those, like Logan made and the Deadpool movies made, they're nowhere near the money that the Marvel Cinematic Universe films are making.
Right.
Hopefully, Disney can
But again,
see that.
I don't think that speaks to quality though either, because would Disney have made Logan? You know what I mean? Like, it's an R-rated movie. That was a great ending, to Hugh Jackman's storyline in there.
But the reason why it was R-rated though is because they chose to just drop in some F-bombs into the movie. If you pull out all the F-bombs out of Logan, it's a PG-13 movie.
You think even with the violence in it?
Absolutely. With there's no, I can't imagine that it's not a PG-13 movie. Huh. So maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, I feel like you definitely take out the blood from that movie to get PG-13, because you never really see that in the X-Men movies with Wolverine. His claws are just conspicuously clean with what he's doing in those films.
Yeah. I think it could still be a PG-13 movie. I mean, it's what it says. All you have to do to get it, for PG-13, you're allowed one F-bomb.
Right.
And then if you have two, all of a sudden you're an R-rated film. And
Yeah.
I think that's like what they did with Logan and Deadpool. I mean, and I've said before, I think excessive use of language in those is just a little bit of lazy writing.
Right.
And I hope that lazy writing doesn't transition over to the Marvel Cinematic.
Right. Well, I think Disney's not going to have their name on it, and they're going to want their name on any of the things that makes that huge money like
Right.
Marvel stuff does. So I see your concern, but I would be surprised if Marvel/Disney actually does that. So we'll see. So I guess at this point it's again more just speculation, other than the fact it's not just speculating, it has happened. So now just see what it means and how it goes on from here.
Man, it seems like we've been talking about this just around the
I
store
know.
for months. Like it was last year, right, when it first kind of came up.
And then the Comcast thing happened, and then they withdrew
Yeah.
their bid, and blah blah blah. So now it's all come to pass, and just just see how it plays out.
And one thing that's crazy is Disney's stock prices have dropped quite a bit, and I don't really understand that. I mean, they just come out of Infinity War 2, which is like the first $2 billion grossing film.
Yeah.
Yet Disney did not meet their earnings expectations. Their projected earnings.
Well, I mean, go back to Sony with Amazing Spider-Man 2. There was a woman internally, like at the top, that said this movie will make $1 billion. There's no way the fifth Spider-Man movie is going to make $1 billion at that point, but it still made money. It was still successful for them, but again, it wasn't what they wanted it to be.
Right.
And now they've rebooted and worked with Marvel since.
I did see one number, and this number, it's hard for me to believe that this number is accurate, and I don't know if this is I assume this is for that quarter where their dollars didn't meet expectation, but the Disney film division, not just the Marvel films, but the Disney film division made $780 million. And this is the same quarter that Infinity War was in, which was, so they spent $1.3 billion of that $2 billion to make $700 million, which that's just mind-boggling to me. So it's amazing that we get these high-budget movies like what we do sometimes, because they could have made 100 movies.
Right. I bet whatever shakes out with Justice League, I bet it's not going to be the same budget the first one was. At this point. Individually, is there anything we're all kind of looking forward to, or anything that has potential that we're looking, think could come out of this?
Yeah. I mean, really, the thing that you mentioned, I do not own any of the original trilogy on any kind of media at home.
Yeah, we're talking about the original theatrical cut, non-special edition.
Where it says Star Wars, not A New Hope. It's just Star Wars is the title of the film. That's probably the thing I'm most looking forward to, since you mentioned that, because I don't own any of those films on DVD or Blu-ray.
Right.
Because I'm not buying that till I can get those cuts of the film.
Right.
I used to have VHS copies of the original cuts of those, but I got rid of them stupidly.
Yeah. How about you, Dan?
I think, kind of mentioned it already, but I think a good Fantastic Four movie,
sure.
I feel like Marvel bringing them home, they are not going to drop the ball on that.
They obviously cannot do worse.
I feel like, again, some other things that are going on right now, as of right now, James Gunn is not doing Guardians 3. We don't really know what the status of that movie is, how that's going to play out. I'd be fine with an end credits scene where there's a Fantastic car out in space that the Guardians run into, and the Fantastic Four already are there, but have been lost for years or something like that.
Right.
I think that'd be a really quick way of tying them back into the movies.
Yeah. Because, the thing always about a Fantastic Four that I've thought, and I think we discussed at the beginning, it really needs to take place in the 60s. It doesn't need to, but that would be so much more fun to me. You know what I mean? So have them lost in time and then kind of play into that man and woman out of time kind of thing. It's just like, I think that would be a lot of fun.
That would also be a good way to explain why they haven't been in these movies without, starting over with another reboot with a bunch of 20-year-olds.
Right.
I feel like recasting a new Fantastic Four, you need to go a little older than what we've had.
Right.
I think you need Reed Richards as someone who can be on par with Tony Stark. Could stand toe-to-toe with him.
Right.
I think that makes for some more interesting stories as opposed to here's another group of young guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Agree. So anything you're particular? Just
no, I'm with Dan. I want to see a good Fantastic Four movie. So
and really, what the great part that comes with, FF aside, it's just like, Surfer, Galactus,
and Silver
Dr.
Surfer.
Like, do you think we get Galactus in an Avengers movie now?
You mean besides a smoke cloud?
Yeah, you want to tease that at the end of Infinity War Part 2?
Right.
How do you go bigger after Thanos?
Know, right? Yeah, that's the only way, or one of the few.
I'm trying to think. Was there I know Marvel's already gotten back a lot of the other franchises from Fox. Was there anything else left out there besides X-Men and the Fantastic Four?
From Fox?
Yeah, because they've got Daredevil, they've got Ghost Rider back now, and different things. I was trying to think if there's anything else kind of hanging out there no one's been talking about.
No.
Not that I know of, but I haven't looked real close at it either.
Yeah.
So.
And again, they don't show us the contracts for whatever reason.
Right, run them by us.
Yeah. So other than just, Spider-Man still being with Sony, but again, they're working with Sony now.
Right.
So. I don't know if I guess we probably weren't going to discuss this, but there's been another trailer for Venom.
Right.
That came out, and we have shown, per Marvel's sort of formula, your favorite thing of a like-powered villain.
Yes, exactly.
In the origin story. So there you go, Mike.
Yep, here we go again. Riot.
Much better looking trailer, though, than what we've gotten for that movie so far.
Venom in it, and more than just a few seconds.
Yeah.
So, not still feeling great.
No.
It's better. All right, so anything else with that? Or just
no.
time will tell?
Yep.
All right, the next thing we're going to talk about, again, with the nature of the podcast, and by the time all three of us get on the same page, a little bit late to the table with some of this stuff, but we're going to talk a little bit about Netflix's Luke Cage Season 2. Got through 13 episodes of that, and I don't know how you guys felt about it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, I really did. I think some of it fell apart, and again, I think it suffered from Netflix bloat, a little bit. The 13 episode thing is just a little bit too much at times, and feels a little bit padded. But all in all, I'm not going to say it was as good or as well. The villain in the first one, with Cottonmouth, was just so good. But I did like Bushmaster. You didn't like him?
I didn't like Cottonmouth in the first one. So I enjoyed the second season of Cage a lot more than the first season of Cage. I still think the first season of Luke Cage was just Daredevil season 1 in Harlem. So, it's almost the exact same plot line. So, I've got some things to say about, Bushmaster, but I thought it was pretty solid, and I didn't mind some of the extra story elements for the 13 episodes. And when you get to episode 13, you're like, and we'll talk about this more, I'm sure, but it's like, how are they going to wrap this up? There's only 30 minutes left in this episode.
Right.
And we haven't got our big fight yet.
Right.
And, so obviously spoilers, for Cage.
Sure.
But
again, we've all seen this at this point, so if you haven't, come on.
Yeah.
I think overall, I didn't like it as much as the first season, but the first few episodes were a slog for me. Those first 3 or 4 episodes, I was just forcing myself to get through. It definitely picked up for me after that, but it was hard getting into this one.
When Bushmaster shows up, which I think was the end of, was it the second or the third episode?
One of those, I think.
That's whenever it really starts to pick up. So.
Again, another Wu-Tang cameo, so that's kind of nice. Hopefully they continue that for every season, because there's plenty of members in the Wu-Tang clan, so we can have one for every season for several years.
All right. But yeah, I thought, like Scott said, I did enjoy Bushman. I really liked the actor in that part. I did have to watch it with subtitles, I'll have to say, because a lot of the Jamaican accent and just like in the dialect and, just the words used is just like, okay, what are they saying here? So, and it's kind of like if you watch the subtitles, they would kind of like put what we would consider proper English over that instead of the way they're actually saying it.
Yeah, I watch everything with subtitles anyway, so I did too. But
so I watched it without subtitles. So and my kids will turn on subtitles because they'll be watching TV at like 2:00 in the morning, and then I always have to go in and turn them back off.
Yeah, gotcha.
Is that so Dad doesn't hear that they're still up?
Yeah,
is that what
exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
So
I didn't have that technology when I was a kid.
But we're starting to get that new formula of villains in all these shows where you have a Bushmaster has this sympathetic motivations. There's something with his origin. One of the things that kind of bothered me is like they bring in Bushmaster. He has a different source of power, but then as you get later into the series, we learn that source of power is basically killing him, so he can't continue being on par or at the same level as Luke Cage. So I didn't like that part of his story. I think they're sort of addressing that, and I assume he'll be back for season 3 along with some of the other characters that we'll talk about in a little bit, but and I wanted Luke Cage to have to find a way other than fists to beat Nightshade, or not Nightshade, Bushmaster. Nightshade was in there too, but
But I did like that arc. I thought it just kind of fell apart. You know what I mean? With Bushmaster, the way it ended, I thought it just kind of was abrupt.
So what we keep talking about this last episode, it's just not being what we expect, and basically everybody comes to Luke Cage and says we're backing off. So there's no big challenge, no big fight. Luke Cage is fighting Bushmaster. He's not having a gunfight with Shades. He's not going toe to toe with all of an army of Maria Dillard's goons and thugs. It's just everybody kind of takes a step back.
Yeah, and the thing is too, it's like it's an action show. And it's like, you're not going to have Mike Coulter punching out Alfre Woodard.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? You're not going to do that. And you shouldn't.
No.
Right.
That's why you really needed this big Bushmaster fight at the end that never happens. Especially with the way that Bushmaster just hands him his ass in this show. And those are good fights. And the first one is really kind of surprising. And I think they kind of showed it in the trailer, unfortunately.
Right.
But it's kind of a shocking end to that episode where he gets laid out. So you really want him to kind of overcome that, and it never really happens in this show. And I think that's one of the big flaws.
Yeah,
this series.
Pretty much every time they faced each other, they kind of bested Luke.
Yeah,
it seemed like for the most part, he never.
And
really,
it's like you can't tear down your hero without building him back up.
Right. Yeah, got to have something.
I guess to me that means the ending made it feel like it was the second part of a trilogy.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but now that you've said that, I could totally see that.
Yeah, so I feel like the third season is going to bring a lot of these things to a conclusion, I guess. To me, whether or not ultimately the second season of Luke Cage is any good is if they take it and move it forward in season 3.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that would totally work a lot better, I think, if they did do that. And again, it gives you a chance to bring up Bushmaster. I really like Theo Rossiborn this season, the actor that plays Shades. He was Juice back on Sons of Anarchy. I think he had a much better arc this year, a lot more to do.
But yeah, in the first season, I kept like, okay, this guy's going to do something at some point, and he was just always just standing around.
Yeah,
I mean, he never ever did anything. It's like, why was he even there for the first season? So they finally developed that character, and I enjoyed him too. The romance was a little creepy, but they explained that. Yeah. They explained that as well. He's an old school gangster, and she was an old school gangster as well.
And there's some other romance going on with that character too. There's some different kinds of romance for old Shades in this season,
right?
But
that was so. But I was glad they finally, did something with that character. Yeah, because I kept thinking, he's going to be some crazy superpowered something or whatever. But no, he's just a regular guy. So,
but yeah, kind of took a turn that was kind of surprising, but not really, with how she ended up. How, what's her name?
Dillard,
yeah.
Stokes, Mike,
Yeah.
Mario Stokes.
Dillard,
if I had to hear that,
Stokes.
I had to hear that one more time, I was going to scream. That's the Luke Cage drinking game for this season, and I don't even drink.
Right.
But every time you hear Bushmaster correct somebody, it was saying Stokes instead of Dillard.
I kind of like that myself.
You'll get alcohol poisoning by the end of the season.
To me, that kind of showed how deep that hatred was between those two characters.
I get that, but do I need it every 20 minutes on the show?
Oh, goodness.
I was surprised that they killed her off.
Yeah.
In that her daughter is the one who actually did kill her off, so that was kind of a big surprise for me. One thing I did really like in the last episode is whenever Nightshade walked into the paradise. Was it the paradise?
Yeah.
She's got the traditional from the comics Nightshade buns on her hair. Yeah. She looked, just like the character. So I was pleased to see that throwback to the comics there. So that was good.
Misty got her new arm.
Mm-hmm.
That was another thing we kind of haven't talked about.
Yeah.
But they were kind of hinting at that last episode of the first season.
Oh, and speaking of Danny, that episode where he finally shows up, does that not make you...
It gives me hope.
Yes.
So good. Yeah. Especially compared to the first season of Iron Fist. I like him so much better. Yeah. They keep throwing around the phrase heroes for hire.
I know. Let's just do this.
I don't think that's where they're going, but I would be fine with just a season of that, with these guys.
It is probably around season 10 or episode 10 or 11. That was Danny shows
like
up.
That.
Yeah, so, 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, 11, somewhere in that range.
They just do a team up where they go in together and do it.
And we get a decent Iron Fist. I felt like he came up a notch.
Yes.
So
for sure.
Gives me a little, not a lot of hope, but a little hope for them to dash in the second season of Iron Fist.
Right.
I tell you what, though, if you don't have Luke Cage show up on an episode of that's a crime.
That's wrong.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Was Turk not in? I was got to think about today, and it's like, was Turk ever in season 2?
It seems like he.
No, I thought didn't he die in the first season?
Oh,
no,
did he?
I didn't think he was dead. Huh. I don't know. Maybe he was in there. I don't remember if Turk was in. I don't think he showed up on the. Let me see if he's on the cast list. I don't see him on the cast list either. But I was just wondering if he was in it or not. So I don't remember.
Yeah,
he had been in most of them.
Yeah, I'm trying. I can't remember now, and it's been a few weeks since I've watched it.
Too.
I am tired of Rosario Dawson in the Netflix shows.
I'm tired of them just writing her out of these Netflix shows. If she's in the show, just have her in the show. Yeah. If you can't afford to have her, don't have her. I'm sorry. I like the character. I think she serves a purpose in these, but don't just have her on for a couple episodes and be like, oh, I got to go see my mom.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, in Iron Fist is where she jumped the shark for me.
Right,
So
yeah,
whenever they have her
In China,
after a
that,
few
all
weeks
that.
of training, going
Yeah,
head toe to toe
right.
and surviving against ninjas, that's just
No.
idiotic. So that was terrible.
Again,
she needs to be gone.
I've blocked out Iron Fist, so I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean.
Pretty rough. And then, of course, Dan had mentioned it to me, and I was just like, when I hadn't finished watching, just like, what about that last thing? And it's just like,
Yeah.
it didn't click when I watched it, but I think it was pretty late and I was tired. But the point was well taken, whenever, because one of the twists at the end then is Stokes. Why can't I think of her first name?
Mariah.
Yeah, Mariah. Yeah, that's right. And, she does redo her will, and she ends up leaving the club, Harlem's Paradise, to Luke, figuring this is my last laugh at him. This will corrupt him.
Right.
You know what I mean? If
And it also seems to be the last straw for her daughter.
Yes.
And that means
Yeah.
she gets up and leaves after that.
Right. Yep. So that happens, and then whenever he finds that out, the attorney that's there to deliver the the news tells her that. He says, "Well, what do you want it?" And then Luke says,
Luke said, burn it down.
Mm-hmm. "Burn it down."
Which I took to mean, I'm rejecting this, I'm moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to
yep.
the final scene.
Mm-hmm.
Luke is running the club. It's like a grand reopening party or something like that. Again, they don't say what the time lapse is
Right.
here. A few weeks, you assume.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, what
What did that
was
mean?
with that line dialogue we just saw?
Uh-huh.
I think they established that it's not like Luke was setting himself up as the kingpin of Harlem,
Right.
and it's not for him to run drugs, but everybody else is going to. You're going to stay out. This is my territory, kind of like what the Daredevil did in Shadowlands.
No, it's
but that is going to be his base of operations. So,
Right.
and that's going to hopefully keep the violence down inside of Harlem. But he's going to, it's going to come at a cost to his principles. Is
And
what's
yeah,
going
and I
on.
mean, they were kind of building up to that throughout the show.
Mm-hmm.
And when I figured out, I'm like, that's a cool story you could tell. You know what I mean? And again, it doesn't mean Luke Cage is a bad guy forever or whatever.
I don't think he is a bad guy.
Yeah,
So,
Right.
but again, like you could go that way for a season, and it's probably got some cool stories in there. But I'm just like, why put in that line? Like, just cut out that line of "burn it down," and everything's fine.
Yeah, I think it's just to show the conflict and him having to make that
Right.
tough choice. But that didn't bother me that much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I went back and rewatched that again after the show was over because I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? Because I kept waiting for some kind of twist. We're like, oh, this is a sting to get all these guys back in here. We're gonna arrest them or something. I couldn't figure out what it was, and it just ends.
Right.
So maybe hopefully next season we figure out what the deal was with that, or maybe
Yeah.
I'm just crazy. I don't know.
Bothered you more.
Yeah.
so this probably was like of all the Netflix seasons so far for Marvel. This is probably actually my fourth favorite season. So I still have Daredevil season 2, Punisher, and then Daredevil season 1. I think this second season of Cage
Moved up.
is my fourth favorite out of all the seasons. Like I grade it like a very fine minus.
Yeah, that's
For
exactly what
I
I
think
give it.
it's pretty solid. So I enjoyed it.
Yep.
You guys going very fine
Yeah,
then
very
on that?
fine minus.
I'm going to go fine with
Oh,
this. It just took too long to pick up for me. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first. It's still better than Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean,
So was watching paint dry.
right. great paint on a boardroom. Dry, but yeah.
Which was most of Iron Fist.
Again, though, Danny Rand in here is a big, up for that. So, and that's the next show coming next month, I think, as we record this, is the next season of Iron Fist.
Right.
Hopefully, they've learned their lessons from this.
Just get rid of
and
that showrunner.
I
don't know why
or
they
we get a
would
better
use that
show.
guy. Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe we'll talk about that later in the future.
Yeah.
But
We'll see. Get them watched quicker so it's more timely to talk about.
yeah.
So, all right. So we finished.
Real quick, I just gotta
Okay.
throw in. No, this I'm done with Cage. I was just gonna throw in Teen Titans Go to the movies.
Right.
I'll try not to spoil this too much, but I'll just gonna say Nicolas Cage finally gets to play Superman. his son is also a voice actor in it, so that's kind of cool when you watch the credits. There is one after credits scene, so if you were wondering like I was, are they going to do anything after credits? They actually do have one after credits scene for Teen Titans Go to the movies. Best Stan Lee cameo ever. All right, and there's actually more Stan Lee screen time in Teen Titans Go to the movies than there is in like all of the Marvel movies combined, I think. And there are. It was fun for me just to watch all the characters and artwork in the background. They're in like a movie theater, and they have all these posters. Like there's the classic Neil Adams Kryptonite No More is like on a poster, movie poster here, and like in a movie theater, they have like Bwana Beast and Animal Man, and the Challengers of the Unknown are featured prominently in this movie. So if for no other reason, if you like DC and you like all of their characters, you will see a lot of DC characters in this Teen Titans movie. So it is geared more for kids. Toilet humor and all that. They never call Deathstroke. He's always Slade. But it actually was surprisingly good. So,
Well, what would you rate that?
I hadn't even thought about it. So it's like I'm going off of probably about a very fine minus or something like that. I don't know that it would hold up for a second viewing.
Right.
Other than to keep watching the background to see all the characters I missed the first time. And it's not that there were a lot of Easter eggs. It's just that you know that they're there. It's just because it's a theater full of all these superheroes, and you're trying to go row by row and see who all's there. And it's you can't just see them all. So I mean, Animal Man was there, and I mean it's just all of these, and it's like it's a joke. It's like, why can't Robin get a movie? They're making a movie for every other DC character, and then like they're coming out with I'm spoiling stuff. So they're coming out with previews like, oh, maybe this is gonna be my preview, and it's a preview for Batman's utility belt. And then it's a preview. The movie the next year is Batman's Batmobile, and so I think it was worth watching. So
Cool. Probably will.
All right.
Okay. Well, the next thing that we're going to talk about. How are we going to do this? Are we just going to?
The hard way, probably.
Probably. Because this is pretty exhaustive. You know what I mean?
Well,
what we're talking about here is Doomsday Clock. It's halfway through the series. 6 of the 12 issues have come out, so we decided we were going to talk about it. And so far,
so I have kind of notes to kind of try to summarize the story.
Okay.
So and you guys, I'll just go, and then you guys just jump in wherever. I don't even have page numbers, so I'm just going to talk about it. So
is it kind of roughly in order? I guess.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
You want to follow along at home,
and I got on an issue order anyway. So I guess just the first thing, just some like general comments. Like, this is awesome just to look at.
Right.
The covers are great.
Yeah,
the art,
great.
It to me it does feel like a honest to goodness continuation of the Watchmen.
Yes.
Oh yeah. This is definitely a sequel.
Yeah. So I know, and we've got the DC characters, but this is not this is not the Flashpoint universe. This is not the Rebirth universe. At least I don't feel like that it is. That could change in the last 6. 6 issues, so because we know this is supposed to tie in somehow to Rebirth, and all that, so we don't have that yet. Bad things about this is, it was supposed to have been monthly. Now it's bi-monthly, so it's dragging out what was supposed to have been a 1-year story into a 2-year story, or longer. They definitely could have been better prepared. Yeah,
going back and reading it now, just preparing for this, it's like this is much better to read in a chunk. Just on the schedule this has been published, I've already forgotten major plot points that have happened here. So, if you haven't read it yet, get caught up, you know.
And if you aren't aware, each month for each issue, there are 2 covers. There's the Watchmen Universe cover, and there's the DC Universe cover. Now, typically they'll have, the Watchmen cover will be just stuff related to Watchmen. The DC cover will have some element of the DC universe on the cover. Some of the covers it was tough for me to find. There's one where there's like a bat signal in the background, and that's it. Other than that, it looks like a Watchmen cover. So now I don't know if you notice this or not, but in the lower left-hand corner of each cover, there's the Doomsday Clock with the Superman logo at midnight, but the arm is ticking closer to midnight as each issue progresses. So you can kind of see that. On the back. I had noticed it on the back.
Yeah, so it's also on the back. Black cover, and they are also getting bloodier on the back covers as it goes.
Blood is flowing down.
I never even looked at the back covers.
While we're on the subject of the actual clock, I want to point out last Saturday when I was working at the store, I ran and got some lunch. And I went by our city park downtown where people stage protests. They'll pick it out there for whatever cause they're, passionate about right now. there were some pretty vague signs the other day, and as I drove by, I couldn't figure out what they were protesting. But I did see one sign that said the Doomsday Clock is at 2 minutes to midnight.
Yeah.
And they had a Doomsday Clock drawn on their poster.
Right.
So I'm like, unless this is just a guerrilla marketing campaign that DC's doing for Doomsday Clock, I'm not sure what these guys are protesting today. But I thought that was sort of a timely reference with what we were about to talk about.
Yeah.
So issue 1 opens up. It's November 22nd or 23rd, depending on how you read it. But it's November 22nd, 1992.
Right.
So I went back and pulled out the Watchmen. So that the massacre in New York occurred on November 2nd, 1985. So we're basically almost 7 years to the date after Watchmen concluded, roughly. That is where this story picks up.
And that's the other thing too, is the timeline here, because we are still in a slightly future DC universe, is what we've been told so far. So again, they are playing with time here, and I imagine that will play into the story later too.
Because that's where I got the most confused as we go along.
Yeah, this is not 1992 DC universe.
No.
Yeah, and they just, I don't think any point that they say what the year is for the DC
side.
I don't think so, but I know in sort of the publicity and marketing, they specifically mentioned Batman's costume, and this is where I think it's kind of an issue. It was because Gary Frank has designed a new Batman costume, or someone did for this series. We have just been told, though, too, maybe like in the last week, that they're going to be premiering a new costume for Batman, sort of dropping off the Greg Capullo design. It's not this, though. It's not this Doomsday Clock design, which you would think if this is in the near future of the DC Universe, they would be incorporating the Doomsday Clock Batman design.
Right.
So a lot of what takes place, there's protests going on here early in the issue, and a lot of what they're talking about is, I guess, Jeff Johns imagining what the political climate would be in the Watchmen universe 7 years after this event occurs. And of course, I don't want to jump ahead too much because there's some things you don't know here at this point that actually takes place. So basically, we have this protest going on, and the Ozymandias. I don't know if we actually. There's some interviews with him. We assume we're in Ozymandias's penthouse or wherever he is, and he's throwing stuff out windows. So not real happy about what things are going on. On the next page, we see a nice brain scan or MRI. We've got evidence of a tumor. We'll figure out pretty quick who that tumor actually belongs to. But here we're finding out that it's been discovered, thanks to Rorschach's journal and Russian intelligence, that people in the Watchmen universe are now aware that Ozymandias was behind the massacre that occurred at the end of Watchmen, which was in the alien lands and kills off most of New York City. So you have millions of people die in that event. The point was to bring the world together, and it did for a time, but then now other things politically in this universe are occurring that are causing that to kind of fall apart. And then we learned that the news media is being closed. We now have national news, and that Russia is invading Poland, and this is going to be, bad, for this universe. So it really all feels very 1980s Cold War.
Yeah,
right.
Cold War. Yeah.
Right after that announcement about the news, we've got the jail scene that introduces Rorschach to the story.
Right.
This first prisoner here is this Dan DiDio.
Oh.
Is Dan DiDio in jail in the Watchmen universe?
I don't know.
But yeah, we've got the introduction of Rorschach to this story after this. Really cool.
Yeah.
And as we'll find out later, how can that be?
Yeah, exactly. Because Rorschach is supposed to be dead. You're right.
Well,
so while he's in prison here, he comes in and frees character Marionette. Now, I got a note here. This is obviously not the original Rorschach, because we know what happened to the original Rorschach at the end of Watchmen. But there's lots of surprises related to characters from the first series. But now Marionette is not interested in leaving unless they go get another character called the Mime. Right. So we get the introduction of Marionette and the Mime. Now there has been a Mime in the DC universe previously, but this is not the same Mime. This is a new character, same name. So they escape from prison, and basically they go back to Night Owl's lair. And I'm jumping, several pages. We know that Marionette has a child, and part of the conditions of her leaving the Rorschach is that she will ultimately be reunited with this child. Mime is interesting. He does not speak, so that's a kind of a plot point moving forward for this, and he basically does everything as a mime.
Right.
So
just real quick on these
Yes.
characters, something obviously the comparison is Joker and Harley Quinn.
Sure.
All the Watchmen characters, though, are based on the Charlton Heroes, as we all know. I hadn't put this together till the new issue of the DC Nation magazine that DC comes out with, is that there are analogs with Punch and Julie in the Charlton universe. So technically, you could still say that these are Charlton analogs with Punch and Julie. It really feels like they're more Joker and Harley.
Right.
But they're, if you're just being a stickler for the Watchmen characters, there are analogs here for these two.
One of the things to say about that is the relationship between Mime and Marionette is not so twisted as what it is between Joker and Harley.
Right.
So
No.
there is a legitimate.
They do care.
Yeah,
for each other in their
maybe not
eyes.
for the rest of society,
Yeah.
but
For each other.
Yeah.
and we will get when we get to issue 6, we'll learn about
Yeah,
that.
and I tell you what, their gimmick as far as their powers go was, we'll get to that later, but so inventive.
Yes, I immediately, even from the first issue, I like these two characters
Yeah,
a
they're
lot.
very
I
And
good.
I'm
them
like,
a lot.
just what they do. It's like, how come no one ever did this before? It seems
right.
so.
So,
Seems like someone would have done this
Yeah.
in the last 90 years of comic books or so.
right.
Yeah, so these two are terrific characters. So
Yeah.
and especially in issue 6 is almost entirely about them. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed issue 6, but I'm
Yeah.
jumping ahead. So okay, so
I
anyways,
do like the scene though. Even before we understand what's going on,
yeah.
they take Mime to the locker that has his effects in it, and he mimes picking out things and putting them on him.
Yeah.
And you're like, and even Rorschach's like, okay, let's go.
You got
It's empty. But then, Rorschach says you have big problems.
big problems. Yeah. So
And if Rorschach's saying that, what's that say about these characters?
so
But yeah, really cool
Yeah.
things. And there's no page numbers, but once they kind of show the city again, they go by the Gunga Diner from the
Right.
previous Watchmen series real quick. So sort of a quick cameo
See
there.
some airships and everything
Yeah.
else that they've established in that world.
So they eventually get back to Night Owl's lair. Night Owl is not there, but Ozymandias is there. So and they learn that basically they need to find Dr. Manhattan. So and then we cut away after that to the DC universe. They don't say that we're switching to the DC universe, but we're switching to the DC universe because we have Clark Kent, and this is a world where I guess Clark and Lois are married. All right, and Clark is having a dream / nightmare, which he's apparently not supposed to have anymore, about his parents dying. And the last thing is there's a nice little, not the last thing, but then there's a nice little dedicated to Lin Wein page. Really appreciated seeing that in the first issue. Don't know anything else you want to say about the first issue?
I mean, right after that, we have the text pages like we
Yeah,
have
I was-
from the
yeah, I
old
was gonna
Watchmen. So again, they're worth reading. There's little clues hidden along in here, so
What's going on?
it's easy to pass this stuff up, but take the time
it's
and
really worth
read
it.
them.
Yeah, so like for example, in this New York Gazette article, this gives you hints about the discovery that Ozymandias has actually been behind the New York massacre. There's things about nuclear peace talks stalling. There is an obituary here that is important later. You have an obituary for Byron Lewis. I'm not for sure. I haven't quite figured out why they have the ad for the pliers.
I think that's what Rorschach used to break into the jail.
Okay, so
He
so
cut,
that's
he
what
cut
it
the
is.
fence, and I would imagine
Yeah.
that's the device he used to cut the fence.
Then there's a menu for Morning Joe's, and that does clearly state that breakfast is only served until 11 a.m. So that's an important story point.
Right. Yeah, these, like this first issue, these are all sort of clippings that Rorschach has put together, so I think they all kind of pertain to him. A little more, as we'll find out later.
And then there also, though, is an article about the murder of the editor, publisher / of the New Frontiersman, which was the conspiracy rag from the Watchmen film. But that's where Rorschach's journal was
ended up,
delivered,
right, yeah.
and that's how the information in that journal actually gets out. So, and they do show they have all the covers for the first 5 issues ready to go.
Too bad that's not all they had.
But unfortunately they weren't able to keep pace. So issue 1, I really enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah.
Very
I
solid.
thought it was a
really good.
entry into this.
It's very, again, make no mistake, and I think that's the thing. As I first read it, I was surprised by is how much of a direct sequel to Watchmen.
Yeah,
is,
and I feel like they kind of downplayed that a little bit in the marketing of it, and it seems like they've really kind of avoided that for years.
Right.
And even the Beyond Watchmen or Before Watchmen stuff was prequels, and things like that. I feel like for a long time they were trying to get Alan Moore to come back and do anything, and they've obviously realized that's never going to happen now. So I feel like DC's just kind of moved on at this point.
And again, it could, and not that it isn't a gimmick to sell books, but it could be viewed that way. But it's just so well done.
That's the thing. Yeah, if it wasn't on par with this, it wouldn't be worth it.
Exactly. But it is good. It is very good and solid.
And it is, like I said, it is gorgeous to look at.
Yes.
It's just
I
think Jeff Johns gets it as far as from the writing perspective and the Gary Frank. Gosh, I just went Gary Frank, right?
Gary Frank.
Artwork.
And that's the thing. We'll complain about the publishing schedule, but long term, this will be worth it just for the detail he's put into the art. And he does feel like a good successor to Dave Gibbons. You know, and I'm sure, and they
do stick with basically the 9-panel layout, the format, and everything. They tinker with it a little bit, but so did Gibbons. You know,
and again, we can talk about this later, I guess. But again, Watchmen originally had the secondary color palette, which they're not really sticking to here.
Right.
I feel like there's a case to be made either way for that. I feel like you could still do the Watchmen universe in that palette and have the DC in the more modern kind of coloring you're used to. And I feel like that would help differentiate when you know you're in another universe.
Sure.
Again, they didn't ask us.
Right.
And they should. So, all right, so issue 2 picks up. So basically we have a nice flashback of Mime and Marionette in action. So basically they're robbing a bank. There's some conversation going on between them and Ozymandias and Rorschach while this flashback is, and they're getting into costumes. So you finally see their costumes on them.
Yeah.
So
just real quick on the first page, I really like this line from Marionette where they're going through their effects, and she finds a bottle of the Nostalgia perfume and says Nostalgia. They don't make this anymore. There's a really nice line there.
Yeah.
But you kind of get a feel for how crazy these two individuals are in this bank robbery.
Yeah, and sticking people up with their fingers and things like that.
Now after this flashback, no, go ahead. Okay.
Just real quick, in the course of the bank robbery, we have the fun scene of Marionette slicing off the bank manager's finger, only to realize he needs his handprint to open the vault. So again, another funny idea that again, why hasn't that been in a book before?
But at the end of this bank robbery, Dr. Manhattan shows up. Now, normally, and we've seen this in The Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan would take care of this by just eliminating these two. Poof, they're gone. Well, they don't actually just come out and say it, but he determines that Marionette at this point is actually pregnant. And I think it implied that he hears the heartbeat of the child. And then they flash over to Marionette had noticed a picture of a child of one of the tellers, and they kind of show that picture to maybe cement that in your minds that she is pregnant, and this is the child that they were referring to while they were still in prison. So they finish that flashback. They're alive. They go to prison. Now they're escaping with Ozymandias and Rorschach in Night Owl's ship, and they're following this electron emission trail that Dr. Manhattan left behind so that they can actually find the universe where Dr. Manhattan fled to.
Yeah, and they're kind of just getting out of here before the missiles hit.
Yeah, because
so they timed that pretty close.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a gag that we kind of glossed over where Rorschach has a watch and he says 3 hours left before the missiles hit. I don't know, my watch isn't working right. I should have got that fixed, and even though I thought you said you were going to get that fixed, so they don't really know how much time they had, but they know they had about 4 hours. So you have this crowd seeing the missiles approach, and they just escape, and the last image you see during their escape is Rorschach's mask, and that turns into an ink blot test that is being taken by one Mr. Bruce Wayne.
Just real quick, when he says he keeps saying that the Rorschachs look like different boats to him, and the panel where he says a speedboat, obviously that's a bat.
That's a bat.
Right.
And now I actually wanted to talk about this. Okay, so the first ink blot is obviously just to transition from Rorschach's mask to this one. And the last one, like you said, is absolutely a bat. I think the second one is supposed to represent Crime Alley because you have.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I
You
mean,
got Bruce in the middle there, and the parents laying there.
so so there's those should be something that are clearly represent something to Bruce Wayne, and he's playing the Playboy millionaire, and I want to get on a boat, but we know that what he's actually thinking,
Right.
Inside of these.
Just a quick, just sort of a history of Rorschach tests in the Batman comics. Just because they've done this for years, like growing up reading Batman books, 90% of the time when I see a Rorschach test, I think it's a bat.
Yeah.
Because they've done that for so long.
It's just
And it's not like I'm taking Rorschach tests every day. I don't want people to think that.
Right.
But when I do come across them, that's usually what I see now because of that.
So in the DC universe, there are protests also occurring,
Oh,
but
boy.
they are against metahumans.
Yes.
All right, so not against nuclear power, but against metahumans. They're protesting, Batman specifically, Wayne Enterprise. We also learned that LexCorp is wanting
Trying to buy out.
hostile takeover.
Who would that profit?
Enterprise.
Bad publicity for Wayne.
So,
But again, kind of a bigger story point is what is instigating these protests is this new Superman theory that's
Yes.
come up
Right.
in the public.
Yeah.
So there's rumors of this Department of Metahumans that we're going to learn a little bit more about. But into the bat signal, we now have Night Owl's ship, busting through, crash landing in an old abandoned amusement park. The four survive the crash, and as Ozymandias is trying to wake up Rorschach, we now learn that Rorschach's name is Reggie. And this actually threw me a little bit because I had convinced myself that Rorschach was the kid that took over the newspaper stand at the end of
Oh,
Watchmen.
yeah, I was thinking that too for a minute.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that character's name was Bernard.
Yeah.
So this is not that
I was
character.
reading the pirate
Yeah.
comics and stuff.
Just
Yes.
real quick, I love how Gary Frank is drawing the bat signal, where they're
Oh,
projecting it on clouds.
Clouds.
Because you know what, people, that's how it would have to work in
It's just
real
kind
life.
of puffy looking.
Yep.
The other thing is, and I didn't go back and really look, is this the amusement park from Killing
That's
Joke?
what I think. Absolutely.
It
It
seems like
definitely
why,
could be.
why wouldn't you
Yeah.
just to reference another Alan Moore
Absolutely.
story?
Yep.
But and again, I read it not that long ago, but I would really need to kind of go back and double check.
No,
that.
that's the very first thing I thought of. It's like even to the sign that's on the fence, I think is just the same thing.
I didn't even look at that. So
Yeah.
Ozymandias and Rorschach, they decide they're going to split up. They decide to find Dr. Manhattan most quickly. Then you talk to the two smartest people in this universe, which they say are Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne. So Ozymandias is going to go to Lex Luthor because Ozymandias wants to go to the smartest person in this universe.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, so that's and they leave Mime and Marionette chained or handcuffed, which
up.
doesn't obviously last. Now, this is Rorschach being the investigator that he is, busts into Wayne Manor and very quickly finds the Batcave,
Yeah.
Right.
which is kind of surprising. All right, so
I do like when he's down in the trophy room here. They've got the Mr. Zero suit, which is like the first appearance Mr. Freeze kind of costume in there. I like when they kind of throw that in now and then. And again, Rorschach is making his way around the trophy room, says tokens and prizes from victims. It's how Kovacs, the previous Rorschach, caught so many animals. Just implying that he would have caught Batman.
Right.
It looks like he looks like a monster. Keeping these trophies is what he says. So obviously he thinks he's some kind of serial killer or something like that at first.
So then Ozymandias finds Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is surprised to find somebody in his, office. But then Luthor gets shot, and we get our next surprise returning character. The comedian shows up on.
But he died at the
last page.
beginning of Watchmen, Scott.
What the heck is going on here?
I do.
So-
Right after that reveal at the bottom of the last page here, we do have this nice standoff between Batman and Rorschach, where Batman says, "You ate my breakfast." Yeah, I did. You don't see a lot of back talk to Batman very often in the comics, so that's nice.
And those were good pancakes.
They
as find
better have
later.
been. Well, they better have been after what happens in the next issue.
Yes.
So the back matter here again. Now we have web pages and stuff for LexNet. So they talk about how there are more superheroes. 97% of superheroes are located in the United States. There's advertisements for like Ferris Corp. They're talking about LexCorp being investigated for espionage. homage. They talk about a couple of other heroes, Rex Mason, Kirk Langstrom, as being potentially created out of this government metahuman project, and that it's Lex Luthor that is allegedly spearheading all of this anti-superhero sentiment, which kind of ties into how Lex, because he would do anything to try to bring down Superman.
And he's done that so many times before in the comics, it totally makes sense.
So basically what it amounts to in the current DC universe in this is the arms race is replaced
exactly
with the metahuman race. Country that has the most metahumans wins. You know,
and that's going to become a continuing theme, especially when we get into like the 5th issue of that whole metahuman. So I felt issue 2 was a good continuation of issue 1. Now, issue 3, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Issue 3, this is the one issue where I have the biggest issue with one plot point. And it's towards the very end, so we'll get to that. But
it starts out with us finding out why the comedian's still around.
Yes,
finding out that it's not just some stand-in or whatever. It obviously is.
It's not a successor like we have with Rorschach.
Exactly. It's not a legacy character. It's actually him. But apparently, according to this telling, whenever he was thrown through the window by Adrian Veidt or Veidt, I don't know how you would say that.
I say Veidt, but I don't know if that's right or not.
A.K.A. Ozymandias. Manhattan interfered and transported him where he splashed down into.
A blue pair of legs interfered.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely almost certainly Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, and
but
he ended up in the harbor in New York, in the water, and crawled out and escaped. Leave some things open, but again, we're dealing with Dr. Manhattan, who can manipulate
basically do
time.
anything.
Like I mentioned earlier, this was a plot point I had forgotten, just due to the infrequent, publishing nature of this book so far.
Right.
I forgot that they explained how Comedian came back till we went back to reread this for the podcast.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so, of course, Comedian and Ozymandias begin to fight, and Ozymandias nearly goes through a window, which Comedian, they comment on the irony that nearly happened, right?
But then he does go through the window
of his own choice.
Escaping. I kind of have issue with this the way I did in The Dark Knight. You can't just jump out of a roof, land on a car, and be okay.
Well, he goes off some side things.
They did the same thing they did in Dark Knight. They try to fudge it like you're not getting up from that, and he doesn't.
No.
Yeah, at least in here he got hurt.
Right.
Whereas,
So they fight. Ozymandias escapes. So now we move back to the Batcave, and Rorschach gives Batman Rorschach's journal. So Rorschach wants him to read so he can be brought up to date on what is going on.
I really like this Batman Rorschach interaction we get in this issue. It's really nice. Just some fun character moments with the both of them.
Yeah, it gives
and
you
again,
the book,
characters you thought would never interact before.
And the way he just does it, says, "Here, read this," basically, and he's like, "You go clean up."
Yeah,
you stink.
Yeah.
Well, he kind of stands around for a while. It's like, okay, what page you on? Page 4.
Yeah.
So to get him away, you go clean up, go have something to eat. I'll get with you when I'm done. So there was a little bit more of mime and marionette in the park.
Yeah.
But to me, now we go to this nursing home.
Yes.
All right. And okay, so we get the first inkling of in the Watchmen we had all the pirates. Okay,
Yes.
so that interlude type story is going to be this. Oh my gosh, I forgot.
Nathaniel Dusk.
Yeah, Nathaniel Dusk, which is
Nathaniel
another
Dusk,
comic book from DC. But there's constant talk of this actor Carver Coleman. Now, whenever I was first going through this, there's a gentleman standing by the window looking out, and I initially thought, okay, this is Carver Coleman, even though Carver Coleman is supposed to be dead. Okay, I'm pretty sure now at this point that that's not Carver Coleman. And we'll explain who that is. They give a kind of a little better understanding of who that. Actually, they say here it's Mr. Thunder. Right. So that's Johnny Thunder of the JSA. So there are several JSA characters that are going to be. Their existence is going to be implied throughout Watchmen. So, okay, Mime, I'm going to go ahead a few pages here. After the cleanup, Mime and Marionette are basically find Joker's bar. And here now we learned that those invisible Mime things that he picked up out of his locker were not actually, there was something there. So
it wasn't make-believe.
Nope, they are apparently invisible to be seen. Because he uses his gun. So whenever he was threatening Rorschach with a gun previously, He could have blown Rorschach's brains out at that point.
Yeah, and I like how it's, they do sort of a subtle reveal with the coloring and the lighting where you kind of see a rough outline of the gun.
Yeah.
But they don't do these just sort of invisible woman effect of like outlines or dotted lines or something. It's like it looks invisible, throughout the book. So it's kind of a fun thing and plays into their gimmick. And again, why didn't someone ever think to do this before?
Right. You can see a little light glint off of it, in a couple of points. So it's it's a solid
And you
thing.
see the flash coming out of the barrel and that kind of thing.
And Marionette is very lethal with her little strings. And we'll get some more story about those strings later on too. So
again, though, there are parts where it almost appears invisible just because it's a very thin, fishing line kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, just a good gimmick for a Marionette themed character.
Yep.
For sure.
Let's see. I've got some news reports, that are occurring, talking more about the metahuman race. We get some more of the Nathaniel Dusk story. Rorschach waking up from a nightmare, and Batman during this time. Now, and this is the point where I take a little bit of issue with this, with issue 3. So Batman finishes the journal, says, "Hey, I know where Dr. Manhattan is. I'm going to take you there." So he and Rorschach proceed to Arkham Asylum, and he says he's behind that door. He puts Rorschach in a door, closes the door behind Rorschach, and locks him in Arkham Asylum. Now, the reason why I take issue with this is as much crazy stuff as Batman has seen, for this to be the thing that's going to have him send somebody straight to Arkham, I think that's a little out of character.
This is one of the coldest things Batman has ever done. I love this moment in the story. I understand your point. But
I didn't see it coming when I first read it.
No, I didn't either. And when you read it, it's just like, oh yeah, of course, that's what he's doing. But it's also, I think it also plays into what you're saying, though. He has seen so much crazy. This is one he can take care of right now
before
it gets any worse.
Yeah, so this is as crazy as Batman has seen what is in the journal.
This is cold-blooded as far as Batman goes. And I think the real issue is don't eat Batman's breakfast.
Right.
Because this is what happens.
No matter how good those pancakes were.
So the back matter in this one, we learn some more about this Carver Coleman, who is the actor who plays Nathaniel Dusk. Yeah, so we get some stuff about him. Learn that he was beaten to death to the point that he was unrecognizable. Which I don't think they've done anything with this officially, but I think that's going to become a plot point. Moving forward. So this is why it's sometimes good to read some of this back matter material.
It's not there for no reason.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing about it.
And also that he's missing a watch. Okay, so there's something else. We discovered that he was being blackmailed.
As far as the watch goes, there's also a hidden room that police found in his house filled with clocks. Who does that sound like?
What?
Yeah.
So whose father was a clockmaker and obsessed with time. All three Watchmen.
And we've already got time travel, playing into this story in some level.
So we also, now they say here that they think he might have been killed because of his mother was trying to blackmail him, and she was a member of a crime family called the Sabellas. And then on the last page, this is kind of like this tabloid magazine of the time. And they have like these rumor pages. Well, what's interesting is we get a little mention of Sergeant Rock here, on the last page. They do talk about these movies. They talk about the movies being controversial. So, like the first movie of this series, Nathaniel Dusk series was. Picture earned notoriety for using words like virgin and abortion, and featuring a private investigator suffering from battle fatigue and fighting police corruption. So, which were, if you read like the comics code, those are things that you're not supposed to do as part of the comics code. So so anyway, that was again some of the back matter. It's definitely interesting.
It feels like a slog, but it's really good.
Yeah. And on the last page of the rumors too, we also get more sort of an origin story for Rita Farr of Doom Patrol, too, and like the affair her parents had and things like that, which I don't know was ever a thing.
Who that was.
Yeah, and then we've got a story here about John Law, the Golden Age tarantula, in here too.
All right.
So issue 4.
Issue 4. Yeah. So
there we start out with Rorschach unmasked, and we haven't revealed who he is. We just see him now.
Well,
right?
we know at this point we knew he was black. We knew his name was
Right.
Reggie, and that's really about all that we kind of.
We knew it
know
wasn't
about
Walter Kovacs back from the
Right.
dead, which I think was kind of the thing.
part of the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
it's
kind of
the
get the
slow
first
reveal.
the first image here is the pancakes look
Right,
like
right.
Rorschach, but what he sees and what's actually there are two completely things.
I'd rather have the pancakes.
Yeah, me,
yeah,
me
for sure.
too. So we get a little history about this. We'll say Rorschach 2 at this point, but we'll just call him Rorschach. We get some history about Rorschach, and that we learned that his father is the one who actually did the evaluation of Walter Kovacs. So he had access to his journal, to his writings, and that's basically going to feed into.
Yeah, we get to see later on how he got access to that stuff, which is a direct tie, and again to the original Watchmen. Mad respect, to Jeff Johns, the
Right.
detail that he paid to that original story and everything else. You always know he's a great writer,
Right.
But but to be able to just do this so seamlessly and just not see something so far is just like, oh, that can't be right. You know what I mean? When you look at and you read it in the context of Watchmen.
I didn't go back and look. Did they ever show the Doctor's home life in the original book?
I think
like,
they did.
Was the kid ever like a background character or anything?
I don't know about the kid. I
wonder.
know the wife was like being like negligees, or you coming to bed.
Oh,
and he'd
okay.
be like,
Yeah, that's
"Maybe,"
right.
and, like that. So I don't know about the
It'd be
about the kid.
it'd be neat if he was, but
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and look.
So here we also learn how Reggie survived the attack.
Yeah.
Though he was
boy.
there, and traumatized by that event. While this is occurring, a psychiatrist is coming in and doing an interview, an evaluation of Reggie. As of course he's John Doe in Arkham Asylum. Let's see.
kind of.
Kinda-
He's now the subject, like Walter Kovacs was. And
Yes.
He's being analyzed by, and of course, as he's looking at the doctor that's psychoanalyzing him, he's hallucinating, seeing, flashes of the creature, because he was had pretty much a front row seat of that alien, and just the mind snapped, and so he just is locked in that moment at one time.
And probably, I think it's a good time to bring up the Watchmen movie at this point, because to me, I really enjoyed the Watchmen movie, and it is almost 100% faithful to the comics until
Right.
the
Yes.
very final event. So so if you keep hearing about this New York massacre and you're confused by what we're talking about, in the movie it was a nuclear explosion. However, in the comics, and this is what this is following along as the comics, it was a faked alien invasion. All right, so.
Which was all engineered by Ozymandias.
Yeah,
who-
it's still sort of the same plot and everything.
Yes.
It's just the execution and what the final thing at the end was
right.
was
whereas-
switched.
Yeah.
And at the time, I actually preferred the movie ending
Yes.
to the comic ending, but now
For the
for
purposes
the purpose of
this.
Doomsday
Yeah,
Clock, I'm
absolutely.
actually enjoying. Now I'm starting to appreciate the comic ending a little bit more than the
Yeah.
movie ending.
But how would you get into that in the movie?
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
it was a good decision for the movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you didn't have the whole backstory of like the artists and
Artists
the
and the-
filmmakers being kidnapped and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And again, there's already a lot going on in that movie. They already had cut so much to begin with.
Right.
So so anyway, Reggie is obviously struggling at Arkham Asylum, and he nearly escapes, and he meets up with a guy who almost feels like he's insane, but he's not. Well, maybe he is, but he's not really. But it ends up being Mothman. Right?
Uh-huh.
All right. So, and at this point, Mothman takes him in and begins to train him. Mothman escapes, but he's brought back, and Mothman is now flying out of Arkham Asylum periodically to. Or no, this is
Well,
Arkham
yeah,
Asylum.
this is-
we're in the
This
Watchmen
is a
universe.
flashback
Yeah,
to when
sorry.
he was institutionalized previously.
So he's in the asylum. He's escaping and bringing contraband back in, and it includes going back
So he's
and
getting
getting.
recaptured intentionally.
Yeah.
And he's getting items that belong to Reggie's father and bringing them back in so that he can review them. Things like a coffee mug and some books and such. So we really get a little bit of Rorschach 2's history, how he became and what ultimately causes him to kind of actually snap. But also Mothman is trading him physical combat from all the styles that he learned from whenever he was part of the Watchmen superhero team as well. So Reggie becomes a fighter, and that's gonna pay dividends for him moving forward.
And we kind of see what became of the Mothman character too. Kind of a nice
Right.
ending there
Yeah.
with that character.
Yeah,
Moth to
so-
the flame, the moth to
Yeah.
the flame.
Yeah,
And then we've got Rorschach making his way to Ozymandias's base
Yes.
from the ending of the original Watchmen series.
And then he goes there specifically to take out Ozzy, man. Take out Ozzy,
Yeah.
make him pay for
Yeah,
what he's done, because
done.
now everybody's known, and he knows where his. But he gets there just to find Adrian Veidt or
Yeah.
Ozymandias actually remorseful
Yeah.
for what he's
Well, and he's
done.
broken because now we see
Yeah.
that it was him
with the
his
tumor.
scan that has the
Yeah.
tumor. So so we know for sure. So they basically at this point are able to team up, and they develop this plan moving forward. Going
To
back to
find
that,
John.
Now also going back to that obituary we saw
Yeah.
at the end of the first issue. Well, that is the obituary for the Mothman.
Right.
All right. And then this issue kind of closes out where we see the mask of the psychiatrist. So now it's Bruce Wayne that had actually been evaluating Rorschach. And then on the last page of the actual story, we have, this mosquito being well, I actually have a question for you. So in the top 3 panels, there's this photograph that's falling down. Who is that supposed to be in that photo? Is that photo supposed to be significant?
what
So on the
page?
last page of the actual comic.
Is that the picture of Manhattan and his girlfriend from the original series?
Oh,
Maybe. I mean, it wasn't obvious to me
Right.
who that's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's in here previously.
Yeah, I didn't remember seeing it.
I think it ties into what we get at the bottom of the page.
Right, where we have a mosquito going into a bug lamp, and it
Uh-huh.
leaves this little puff of smoke that
looks like
looks like Dr. Manhattan's.
Hydrogen atom.
Yeah.
All I know is he better not be hiding in a bug zapper at the end of issue 12.
Right.
So yeah, the back matter here, we have several letters that Mothman wrote to his sister while he was institutionalized. Kind of sad to where you find out she didn't write back to him for years, probably decades, it sounds like.
Well, it sounds like she never wrote back to him until she sent him flowers.
Yeah.
But I still don't think she ever wrote to him.
Yeah.
I think that's the implication that he
Right.
never ever wrote to her, and he even sent her money and such. So, but I thought it was humorous whenever he asked her to send him supplies.
Yeah, the supplies that he needs to
that
break
he
out.
needed to.
Yeah.
Was like 18 feet of 3.8 millimeter
Right, yeah.
aluminum alloy tubing,
Yeah.
40 feet of quarter-inch, et cetera, et cetera, et
Yeah,
cetera.
so he needs
some
some
wings to
new
build.
wings.
So he can build some wings that are a little bit more
gives you
substantial.
wings.
So,
Right.
but yeah, it's just like, they put that obituary in the first issue and they show it again,
Yeah.
so now we see what that all ties into. So
Yeah, and again, starting here on the 5th issue now, we've got Ozymandias in the hospital. And again, I had forgotten about this scene already. It's 2 issues ago.
Yep.
Where they're kind of diagnosing him, and he, makes his escape from the hospital.
he does, as he escapes, he's able to retrieve his uniform and his cat.
Right.
Right.
So,
Bubastis.
yeah. Let's see. We see, not Firestorm, but the Russian counterpart for
Right.
Firestorm. They do continue to mention other superheroes. Hawk and Dove get a mention.
All in the context of them being results of this
Metahuman
Department of
program.
Metahuman Affairs.
Yeah. So here we're things are starting to pick up with that whole Department of Metahuman Affairs.
And again, we don't know if that's what's happened. That's just
Right.
kind of the rumors that are leaking to the press and that kind of thing. But it's all kind of the
Or who's the
dia-
source for these
Yeah,
rumors, what
that's
the
kind of the
truth is.
dialogue. After that, we have Rorschach with Saturn Girl having made their escape from Arkham Asylum now.
Right.
Okay, now this is Legion of Superheroes, Saturn Girl.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. That's kind of threw me. It's like it seemed out of place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this was referenced in the DC Universe Rebirth special that kicked off the Rebirth
Yeah,
line.
Okay.
I think that's where she kind of comes into it.
Okay.
Again by Jeff Johns.
Yeah, and she was in there, and then she was in that Justice League versus Suicide Squad. She was in that.
Oh,
just a
yeah,
little
that's
bit,
right.
too. So
And again, we've got like a press conference here with Russia kind of showing off their like state-sanctioned superheroes now. And again, some references. These are characters that are all pre-existing that have been in here before, but just sort of falling under this umbrella now.
So Mr. Thunder now back to the nursing home. He escapes. All right. So and he is traveling to find the lantern. Right. So we learn that
Right.
he's going out looking for looking for a lantern.
Yeah.
So we can assume that this is Alan Scott's
Yeah.
lantern
And this
because
is
it's JSA.
predicated upon him seeing a news report of the All-American Steel Company burning down in green flame. You know,
okay.
so to him, it's like he knows what green flame is.
Right.
You know, and again, nice reference of the All-American Steel Company.
Yep.
Ozymandias returns back to Night Owl's ship after leaving the hospital, meets up with Batman. So Batman has the journal, right? Next we go to Joker's bar, and Comedian is there and investigating what's happened to all of Joker's thugs and the fact that they, didn't take any money. No, actually, we're to a different scene here with Mime and Marionette. They're looking for the Joker at this point, right? So they're trying to track him down.
I really like how the gang tattoo for the Joker is the original Jerry Robinson Joker card logo. I really like when they use that in the comics. It's kind of nice to see that as a tattoo on the gang members.
Moving ahead, we see a brief glimpse of. We don't actually see a glimpse of Black Adam, but we get that Black Adam is, active in this world. We'll learn more about Black Adam later.
I do like how the reporter that is, being saved is Jack Ryder, the Creeper.
Oh, okay.
From that Steve Ditko created. That's kind of a neat tie-in. We see some news reports again with Firestorm and Killer Frost talking about the metahuman theory. I do like how candid Firestorm is being in these sections. I also see, I don't remember him ever just straight up talking to the professor in front of people before. No. I'm sure he's probably done it at some point, especially with the Justice League, but to do it on TV like that, it was kind of funny.
Lex is recovering in the hospital. Let's see, looking for where I'm at in my notes. Yeah, Lois comes in, pays him a visit. Now, the big reveal here is that Lex reveals that there's a metahuman is working for the government who was a member of the Justice League. Now, they don't go out. We don't see anything else with this in issues, for sure, in issues 5 and 6, but that's, probably setting up a plot point for the last half of this story.
The problem with that is, that's a nice hint. It does not narrow down anything.
It's like the Avengers. Everybody's a member of the Justice League.
You know how many people have been a member of the Justice League. Even if you're just counting, since New 52 or something, it's still a decent list.
Yeah. So the old man, Mr. Thunder, arrives at his destination. He gets mugged, escapes briefly. He
gets beset upon by some young toughs.
Yep.
I really like when they bring it back Johnny Thunder with this stuff, especially, even if he's older like this. It's always nice to see that character again.
He does, though, find the Alan Scott lantern, right?
This is the original Golden Age Green Lantern. Lantern.
And then he is saved by Rorschach and Saturn Girl from those that were trying to mug him. So, and then it kind of closes out where Mime and Marionette have to go in to find the source of the bat signal, meet up with Joker, and I guess during that the Night Owl. Does it crash? He gets kicked out. I can't remember exactly what happens.
Batman falls out of the
he
ship,
falls out for
some reason.
Ozymandias is flipping the ship around, and it seems like Batman just kind of tumbles out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, he's got his grappling gun. He shoots it onto a gargoyle. You figure he would have been able to stay on the ship if he wanted to.
Yeah.
But he gets dragged down by the mob in the street, and Joker's thugs beat him up.
So we now have an unconscious Batman and Mime and Marionette meeting the Joker, and Rorschach asking what is Lantern.
I know it's not going to happen, but imagine if Rorschach got a Green Lantern ring to control that lantern.
One of the things that I hopefully didn't talk about while I was gone, but one of the things that threw me, and maybe just because I'm simple, is on page 16 we see a shot of Superman kind of hovering above and kind of checking everything out from on high. He's wearing the red trunks. You know what I mean? So it's just like...
the red trunks are back now.
Right,
That's the thing. So this is supposed to be the near future of the DC Universe is what we're told.
They knew then that the trunks were coming back.
Maybe,
yeah, exactly. yeah, it's interesting because I did notice that about the Batman costume too. Because I meant to go back and look too. One of the things leading up to all this, one of the first. There's a small crossover event called The Button, and I know we see Batman in the DC Universe Rebirth Special #1, Find the Button,
right.
what costume is he wearing? Because now he's got the oval, right?
Yeah,
And this,
at the time, I think he was just wearing the current costume.
Okay, the current costumes. Okay, so we just still don't know because that's, paying attention to costumes is a clue to.
You would think.
But you're not sure. But yeah, I just know that he's got the oval emblem on his chest, and Superman's wearing the red.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They have tied this into DC continuity.
Yes.
That's the thing. This isn't just a standalone thing, and Gary Frank is doing his own deal with the costumes and things. This is supposed to be in continuity.
Right.
Or so we've been told at this point.
See, that made me think with the trunks back and then the oval on the costume. I was like, okay, so are we really still in 92? You know what I mean? In the DC universe, because it went before those costume changes happened. But then later on, it specifically says, doesn't it say somewhere like 2019?
It does.
Yeah, it does later on.
Right here on the top on that trouble alert.
Trouble
so the back
alert,
matter in the back of,
May 30th,
of issue 5, it says, 2019.
So maybe that's when this will finally wrap up.
Yeah.
It may not be done by then.
Yeah.
We got another year, so
We
it's going
might.
to be. Yeah. So anyway, the back matter in this one, they talk more about the rise of the metahuman, get a little bio on a few of the heroes and villains, a little map about where they're, how the metahuman race is going. To me, probably the important part is the last couple pages of the back matter, where we have this super invitation from Black Adam, where he's basically inviting any metahuman to come to Kandak to basically,
For
amnesty or
sanctuary.
sanctuary. So, and then now issue 6. Even though this is the most latest, this is the least to say about this issue. It's a terrific issue, but the least to say about it, because it is basically an origin story for Mime and Marionette.
Yeah.
And it is a terrific origin story. They have a very tragic origin. You need to read this. I don't want to say a whole lot about it because it's absolutely worth reading. While this story is progressing, they are moving around with Joker, heading to some supervillain meetup is basically what it is. Yeah. So we're interspersed with Joker pushing Batman around and chained up in a wheelchair, them talking, meeting some other crooks, until they finally arrive at this gathering.
Yeah, I really like this interaction too, going to the meeting where they're kind of running through the sewers, and they come across some of Mr. Freeze's henchmen.
Right.
This is a thing that should happen way more in these comics. There's so much crime and different supervillains in Gotham. They would be running into each other like this.
Right.
And the guys, Freeze's henchmen are saying that they heard Bane got caught by the feds. Maybe Freeze did too. Maybe we should go along with Joker. This would be.
If we don't, he's going to kill us anyway.
That's the thing. This was the day of these henchmen. You know what I mean? And they do decide to join up with Joker for a little bit,
right?
To where they get some crazy tattoos and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, that plays into once they get to the meeting, Freeze is there. They're like, Freeze is gonna be mad about these tattoos we got.
Don't let him see. Yeah, he just kind of looks over at him. Like that. And do we ever get a reason too? The backstory when Mime and Marionette are young kids of how he just starts out not talking.
Right.
Okay.
He's
mute.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss something there.
Yeah.
So Mime, Marionette, Joker arrive at this meeting where you have Riddler, Captain Cold, Giganta, Penguin, Captain Boomerang, lots and lots of supervillains there, and they're basically talking about: are we going to accept Black Adam's offer of amnesty, or are we just going to stay here? The Quarter Owls, they say they're going to stay. A lot of them are going to go, and then they're accusing each other. Well, such and such is a puppet, like Typhoon is being accused of being a puppet for the government, right? So they're saying, well, I don't know him. Dr. Savannah's there.
Yeah. I do like when they're on the way to the meeting, Joker tells Mime and Marionette that they're going to this meeting of the Secret Society or Legion or whatever they're calling it this time. That kind of does play into DC's history of injustice leagues and crime syndicates and different things where it is a good point Joker makes. It's always the same group essentially, but there's always a different name for it. Like they can never settle on something.
Flavor of the day.
And Riddler refers to this as the League of Villainy, I think, at some point. So that's what they're calling it this time.
Right.
And then Comedian crashes this meeting, basically immediately assassinates Typhoon with a pretty graphic headshot. And Mime, and this is where we learn a little bit more about the relationship between Mime and Marionette, basically, I think Mime understands that comedian's out for Marionette, so he is making himself a target for the comedian so that Marionette can escape. And they talk about this, a little bit more, but it's a really nice sequence of panels where you have the comedian lining up the shot. He's got his sights directly on Mime's head, and then this leopard print appears in his scope, which is gigantic, growing.
I didn't catch this the first time through, but on the next page when the comedian hits the fan and they're all making their escapes, Riddler gets shot by the comedian and is riding on top of one of the subway cars. The top is phasing through the window of the subway car, and the mirror master is setting him through the window as him and Captain Cold, the three of them, are making their escape. So again, there is a big comedian throws a grenade, there's a big explosion. A couple guys are dead, but I wouldn't worry about these characters not showing up again later. Right. Some of them definitely got away. Again, more good backstory here with Marionette.
Again, tragic backstory for this.
Really good, really well written.
Yeah, this is. Even if you're not reading the rest of the story, this issue is worth reading just for the backstory of them. And then at the end. They do escape. Mime and Marionette do escape together. However, the comedian does catch up with them, and they are saved by, of all people, the Joker.
Gives him a buzzer shot.
And again, a funny line from the Joker after he takes out comedian of mimicking the noise that comedian said when he went down. And he procures the smiley face button off of the comedian.
When I smile. And then the back matter on this one, so we do learn, because now we have documents that say Department of Metahuman Affairs, and they go through the history of Typhoon about how he was created. So they're apparently lending some credence to this theory.
Unless these are all fake documents.
I guess unless these are all fake documents. But he was a double agent. And then we get some additional documents from, I forgot who it was from.
Moonbow,
yes, saying that they should say what actually happened, that he should get basically a hero's burial, and then on the last page we get a from the desk of director.
Director coffee stain. Apparently,
an unfortunate.
That's what you do with your official government documents. Lay your coffee on them
over the name of who this is actually from. So we don't get to find out who the Justice League person is that's part of this group. So,
did you guys catch the codes for the agents on here? Because Typhoon is listed as trying to think. There's different ones in here now. Oh yeah, FL 294-1981.
Okay,
that's Flash 294 from 1981. That's his first appearance.
Oh really? That's
so cool. Yeah. It carries through here. So one of them is Moonbow. You can figure out some of the other. They're talking about the Puppet Master GL1 1960 from Green Lantern number 1. So you can kind of figure out who these agents are. Something to probably pay attention to later in the series if they start mentioning agents by their number.
Right.
It'd be a way to figure out who they're talking about. Gotcha. That kind of thing.
Who's
so
this?
Kind of a fun clue
in
there.
Brandon. Okay.
Yeah, that's the Moonbow character from the meeting previously.
Because I just saw the signature at first. I said, "Is that Boston Brand?"
Oh yeah, right.
Kind
of looks like it.
Okay, so
far I'm really still enjoying this series. Yes, I wish it was much more coming out much more regularly.
I'm ready for more.
Yeah.
I think we've got it's a little slow lead up.
Yes.
But it's moving at a good pace, and I think we're in for a pretty good conclusion. My big fear is that it's like all the Marvel events, that it's going to be a whole lot of something, and the last issue is going to mean nothing. But at least with this story, we know that they can do something pretty significant with the Watchmen universe side of the characters. Obviously nothing super bad is going to happen to Batman, Superman.
Right.
But
but the Marionette, and all this time this is going on, the missiles have hit.
They've already hit.
And we don't know what the level of destruction is at that point. Over in the Watchmen universe.
Just the way event books have gone for DC since Dan DiDio took over, you can't tell me there's going to be the end at the end of this story. There will be loose ends that go on to something else, especially if this is successful, as they want it to be. I can't see them just tying up everything and we never hear anything about this story again, especially with, how popular Mime and Marionette are probably going to be at the end of this story. There's no way they don't do something with those characters again at some point, especially being original characters and not, Alan Moore creations.
Right, and just so well done. You know what I mean? It's just like these characters, for being so central and key to this and being relatively new characters, they are... I mean, just the backstory they've given them, it's really, really good.
At this point, you feel like you understand these characters completely. I mean, you understand their motivation and everything about them with just, not even the equivalent of 2 issues of information just about them.
And then all this stuff happens and all this stuff's going on. You learn so much about them, and then you're not even thinking about it, but in the back of your mind, you're just like, they've got a kid. You know what I mean? What is that? Who is that kid? You know what I mean?
Where's
it's just
the kid
like,
at?
where's the kid at? Who is it? All this and all that. Or who will it become? So, I mean, there's just so many layers to this. And again, like I said before, this could be just come off as gimmicky, but it's just so well written.
Yeah,
and
this is
stressed, just gorgeous. That it's just solid. It's just
this is what they wanted before Watchmen to be.
Yes.
The feeling I get. Right. And again, there was some good stuff in there, but that event was basically hit or miss with the different aspects of it. This really feels like a sequel to Watchmen, which they've put off for so long.
But I think it's one of those things, good things come to those who wait, so I think maybe we just waited long enough to get this story that we need. You know what I mean? And again, how much will these Watchmen characters play into the DC universe? I think that's going to be interesting. The way, obviously we're seeing JSA characters, we're seeing Legion characters, which you haven't seen either one of those in the Rebirth era, and they've been talked about since it started, but... So it'll just be interesting. Just I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's something we were talking here around the store too when they announced this. Is like, what do you gain from this story? Do you incorporate Watchmen into the DC universe?
Right.
I don't think anybody really wanted that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a poor fit unless you. I mean, anybody with a great idea could probably work, but again, you have to find that, and it's like, what do you gain from that? I don't see a Watchman with Dr. Manhattan and Comedian on it,
right? Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's just like, how do you do that with this pre-established superhero universe that's been going on for 80 years,
right?
But
it is interesting, I mean, just the like I said, the hints that we see in some of the magazines, that back matter stuff, about. Who is Manhattan, and was he was he hiding in plain sight this whole time as a member of the Justice League? I mean, Martian Manhunter, could it be? You know what I mean? It's just like, so I mean,
well, that's the thing though too. Even when
and he's the Def Crime, the detective, like John Jones. It's just like, is this all foreshadowing of that, or reading too much into it? That's the fun stuff about this kind of books, is the theories.
And when you're, this is one of the few books that I'm reading as it comes out. So,
yeah, that's the other thing, too. As far as a trade, I feel like I'm really surprised they haven't done Doomsday Clock Volume 1 of the first 6 issues.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done that in the past for bigger 12-issue arcs.
For sure.
I'm really surprised they're not doing that, especially because by now, stores, local stores are probably sold out of the first couple issues at least.
Right.
Yeah. It seems like... Again, a no-brainer for DC, and it's not like they haven't done it before.
Right, yeah. Get it out there. Because there are some people that just trade read, and they're probably ready to see what this is about. You know what I mean? So,
and again... And
those people.
Right. And again, if, they're saying this is a bi-monthly schedule now, there's no way we don't get another bump in there at some point.
Yes,
theoretically this is wrapped up next year. We'll see, how that really plays out. But it'll definitely be a while before we get the 12th issue out of this.
For sure.
And then maybe at some point Jeff Johns decides they need a 13th issue. They'll do it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Do we want to rate the story so far?
Yeah.
I mean, it's only halfway.
Only halfway.
Yeah,
I mean, at this point, I had to give
far.
like a very fine plus just because I'm absolutely going to keep reading it.
Yeah. I'd probably give it a near mint minus, just maybe a notch above. I mean, I couldn't like it a lot more.
Yeah, I'd probably go near mint with it, too. Like, this is, I suppose my expectations probably weren't where they should have been, especially after Before Watchmen. But yeah, it's just like, how do you follow up Watchmen? You know,
Exactly.
they never did it for so long.
And if you have never read Watchmen, the original,
Don't listen to this.
Yeah,
Don't listen to any of this.
Don't listen to any of this. Avoid it and go buy that book and
Yeah,
read it.
yeah, go
Come
read
here
it. How
and
many
buy it.
copies do you have on the shelf right now?
No.
You need to-
Probably just a couple.
Just a couple, but you
Yeah.
can come get it soon.
Oh,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
always in print.
Oh yeah.
And again, apparently that's part of the sticking point with Alan Moore.
Uh-huh.
Was his original contract was, as soon as this went out of print, it all went back to him.
Oh really?
And they've never let it fall out of print.
So,
And they even solicited a new modern
Yes,
edition. so-
Exactly. So
hardcover slipcased edition. But yeah, I mean, if you haven't read Watchmen, it's amazing. You know, it's not a fun read. It's not a light read.
yeah, it's not a feel good comic book.
No. And it's not light. And the back matter in this is like child's play
Like,
compared
Oh,
to the stuff that's in Watchmen.
I feel like that was probably intentional too
Oh,
on
yeah.
John's part.
Yeah.
And if you want a fun experiment, you can read Watchmen and pretend that Dr. Manhattan is Captain Atom.
Right.
And
Uh-huh.
Rorschach is actually the question.
slash
And Night
Mr.
Owl
A.
is Blue Beetle. And
Both
yeah.
Blue Beetles.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Night Owl 1 and 2.
Yep.
Silk Spectre is what?
Phantom Lady.
Phantom Lady,
Right.
okay, yeah. So you can kind of pretend that they're other characters.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the original point of this was to bring those Charlton characters over, and they couldn't do it because they were almost all would have been dead.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And DC said, no, we're doing other stuff with them.
and it was for the best.
Yes.
But Alan Moore doesn't want people to adapt his creations.
Yeah.
No, they don't. But it's okay.
Yeah, if he does it.
Yeah, he does it. All right, so
We'll be back in 2021
Yes,
to wrap up
there you
Doomsday
go.
Clock. Maybe.
so
we'll
stay
see.
tuned.
Yeah.
Listen to every episode in case it's that one. But I guess that'll do it for this, bonus content in this. And again, if I think I've got most issues still on the shelf of Doomsday Clock. If you want to check it out, come in and pick up a trade paperback of the original Watchmen and give that a read. And, this is really solid stuff, and just hopefully it'll come in and check it out. So before we wrap it up here, I just want to say give us a call here at Campus Comics at 618-457-6011 if we can help you in any way, or stop by the store and see us, 816B East Main Street here in Carbondale. And see you at BergCon here.
Berg
coming up
Comics
soon.
Con, August 18th. Maybe this might actually be out after that.
Yeah.
So we had a great time at
Yeah,
BirdCon
yeah,
we
this
did. It
year.
was phenomenal. Best show ever, Scott.
Yeah,
Congrats.
well, thank you. All right. And then, of course, September 29th and 30th, we'll be
Yeah.
at Saluki Comic Con here in Carbondale. And then October 13th, Campus Comics and Bird Comics will be at the Paducah Galaxy of Heroes Con
yeah.
or something like that, which is looking like it's going to be a good show. It's going to have free admission.
Yeah, it's first year for that, right?
First year for that show, so they're doing a lot of things right for a first year
Good.
show. So I have pretty high hopes. It's just a matter of getting people in Paducah in that area to come out to it. So I've attended a few conventions in Paducah, and sometimes they're not they don't get out for some of this stuff. So I'm hoping that Paducah will actually get out for this convention because I think they're doing everything right for that show.
Yeah,
So
they're trying to do some good with it.
yep.
So, all right. So that's it from here at Campus Comics. And again, I'm Mike No, owner-operator here. Like I said, call us, come see us, message us on Facebook if we can help out. And again, here with
Scott Reig, birdcomics.com, BURG. You can find me on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera.
blah, blah.
And Dan Brown, I'm online on Twitter, WordPress, and DeviantArt at Detective651, and here at the store most Saturdays.
All right. Thanks for listening.